All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's preseason webinar, where we will be discussing basketball and softball. My name is Jennifer Tresp, and I am the Training and Unified Sport Director for Special Olympics Pennsylvania. So I will be here to help answer questions. Also presenting tonight will be Teresa, and sorry, Teresa, if I butcher your name, Amato?
Amatoro.
Amatoro. I'll get it right sooner or later.
That's okay.
And we do have lurking in the background somewhere is Bruce Bach. He is the director of senior sport director, so he is lurking somewhere in the background also. So we do ask that you keep your computers and your phones muted so everyone can hear what is being said. We do predict that the presentation will take 50 minutes to an hour. So that's a little bit of your time that we'll be taking up tonight. So let's get started. We have a pretty full agenda, as you can see, but we're going to move quickly through it. So we do have some housekeeping items to take care of first, and the first one being some coaching topics that when we return to regular skills training and competitions, we do have some new rules in effect for the number of head coaches and certified coaches. So please remember that teams and team skills all must have at least one certified coach per team and at least one certified coach for team skills. Okay, so what's new in that area is the team skills. Before, the coach just needed to be an assistant coach. That coach now needs to be certified. And when you get to individual skills, one certified coach for every 25 athletes. Okay, so if you do have 25 skill athletes, you will need one coach. Once you have 26 skill athletes, you will need to have two certified coaches. Job descriptions and levels of responsibility. Please note that this is just a little brief explanation of some of the responsibilities. For a full listing, you can go to the website that is at the bottom of this page for more information. Okay, so for the head coach, we have down that they are always certified in the sport. Assistant coaches do not need to be certified, but we do recommend highly that they attend a certification and get trained. The head coach supervises all coaches and athletes, where the assistant coach will supervise probably 4 athletes for every coach. Well, it should be a 1 to 4, but sometimes you're overseeing more athletes, but there's also additional coaches with you. The assistant coach will do all the duties that are assigned to them by their head coach. They will assist in evaluating the athletes. They will arrive on time. Well, both coaches, head coach and assistant coaches, should arrive on time for practice and stay throughout the entire practice and leave once the athletes are all on their way home. Okay. Assistant coaches assist with their uniform, collection of medicals, and taking attendance. Again, those are the duties that will be assigned to them by the head coach. The head coach will make sure they create the practice plans and share them with their assistant coaches. They will check the athlete medicals and check their volunteers to ensure that they are all Class A. And then they will also be completing all the required paperwork for competition, as well as those wonderful training numbers. So the Visas portal is a wonderful place. If you have not been on it, please get there. The Visas portal has all your personal information in it. You can see your database record. But what's important for you to see is that if you need to update your protective behaviors, general orientation, and concussion training, you find that new location on the Visas portal. You'll see a Class A training requirements. That is where you're going to click. And again, you will find protective behaviors, concussion training, and general orientation there. What's nice about this new button is when you click it and you take the training, your certification for taking it automatically goes into your database record. So there's no chance of it getting lost. It is a direct link from the training to passing the course to getting it in your database record. We have background checks, a new renewal plan. There are some of us, if you've been here for 5 years or more, may remember when we started our new background checks. So we are now at the point where we are 5 years from 5 years from having started the process, and background checks need to be updated every 5 years. So 3 months and 1 week prior to your expiration date, you will receive an email from SOPA. This is going to give you a heads up that within the next week, you are going to see an email, and it's also going to ask you to update your PA disclosure form. Okay? So exactly 1 week later, or exactly 3 months out, you will get an email inviting you to begin your background process. It is through Sterling Volunteers, so you will need to do the recertification process. It again has 2 parts. Okay, the state and national background checks on Sterling Volunteers website, and then it also has the PA child abuse clearance. Then remember, they will give you a code. So you have to, between each process, you will need to make sure that you watch for that second email to get that code. If you have any problems and you need any help, please contact Beth Boardman. She's been living and breathing the background checks now for the last couple of years, and she will be able to help you. And again, that's Beth Boardman, Boardman at SpecialOlympicsPA.org. Going back to the visas portal, if you go under the button for training schools, webinars, and more, you will see that you can sign up for a training school. You can tell me you need a training school. You can do a track 2 application. So if you are a coach who is not certified, but you have great experience in basketball, you can go with an experienced coach track 2 application. And you fill out the information. You tell me as much as you can about your background in that sport. You hit the send button, an email comes to me. I review the information that you have sent. And from that information, we'll make a decision whether you can bypass the traditional training school and work through the track 2 training school. Okay. This is also where you're going to find, once you take a training school and you need to do your practicum hours, this is where you're going to find the area to register your training hours. Okay, that is the newest part of this area. And please remember, this is the only place you can sign up for a training school. So if you or your other coaches need to be trained, this is where you would sign up on the visas portal under training schools, webinars, and more.
Are we being sent links to this?
Are we being sent links?
Yes. Are links going to be sent out? Is there going to be an email coming to us with the links to these portals? Because I'm not sure I have these.
Okay, Linda, we can definitely take care of and make sure you get that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure. So when you do go onto your visas portal, the sports training application form is now on the portal. So we're going to do our hours there. You're going to click on sports training application coaches hours. As you can see, it's the second on the pull down. They'll have options for you to list your hours of training. So you might remember the little box on the form before that you filled out to get your certification. It will ask you what the job is. The job is your sport. So you'll do the down arrow. Whatever training school you take, that will appear in your down arrow. Don't worry. It only puts the ones on that you sat through a training for, so you won't have to go looking for many. You'll only see the ones that you have the rights to submit hours to. It asks for the location. You can put the county in which you are doing the training. It'll ask for the date. You can enter the time of the training and how long it was. Then you will hit the save button, and a screen will come up, and it will show you the information you just entered. So you will be able to enter your information after each practice, or you can wait and do it all at one time. But there will need to be, you won't be able to say that these are your 10 hours and just put in 10 hours. You have to do them by individual dates. Okay, so if you practice an hour every week, then you'll have to put that day in for the hour. You won't be able to do a massive 10 hours. Okay. If you are looking for continuing education, remember every 3 years after you are certified, you will need to take a continuing education course to maintain your certification. Here's how to find the listing. If you look under volunteer resources, the volunteer center, and then down at the bottom will show up this continuing ed course option. There is a link to a list of about 25 to 30 options for continuing ed. If you are certified, 30 to 60 days prior to your certification expiring, you will get an email that has that same link in it that will give you the list of continuing education opportunities. We do have a new series called Lunch and Learn. You may be used to it. I shouldn't say it's new. We've been doing it for 3 or 4 years, but we have changed it to every other month instead of every month. And obviously they take place at noon. And you can see that there's a link right here that will take you to the Lunch and Learn. This is right on the website, so you should easily be able to find it if you go under training information. I'm looking for some suggestions if you have ideas for topics for us to discuss on the Lunch and Learns. As you can see, in January, we did fitness, home exercises with little notice sports equipment. This webinar actually was also a continuing ed. You can always tell because of the red asterisk behind the date or behind the title of it. If you go on to the website, you will see the recorded webinar and a link to a quiz. All you need to do is take the quiz. And when you pass it, it will let me know you took the quiz, and I will update your continuing education on your VSIS record. The next upcoming webinar is March 12th. It's all about the uniform. It will review logos and requirements for all team uniforms as well as individual sport uniforms. And then on May 12th, we'll be doing a how-to, goal setting, and personal best. So let's talk a little bit about those practice plans. We strongly recommend that you always create a practice plan for every one of your training sessions. This is a wonderful way to make sure that nothing is overlooked, that you took care of everything you had hoped to get done in that training session. You can share these plans with your assistants. It keeps you organized. Everybody knows what's going to be happening next. So assistants or volunteers or parents can help set up the next drill. And it also makes it consistent for your team. And that's one of the things we want to make sure is we have this rhythm that goes into your practices and it has a nice flow. So right from your warm-ups into your skills training, into your game, into your cool downs. Okay, so create those practice plans and do the best you can to follow them. Are you interested in our coach's progression plan? I really hope you are. The progression plan recognizes your efforts in coaching education. It starts out by you being a certified coach. Once you are certified in at least one sport, you can move on to the bronze certification. When you go to bronze certification, you become a participant with the Fit 5 activation plan, which we'll go over in just a couple minutes. It includes your personal best performance goals and then taking the course coaching Special Olympic athletes. The silver level builds upon the bronze, where you're setting goals with your athletes. You're training a minimum of 10 weeks. You're doing principles of coaches course, and of course, coaching unified sports. Then you can move on to the gold, which builds upon the silver and the bronze, and we will have advanced sports skills courses at that time. We'll have training at least twice a week for a minimum of 10 weeks with your team, and you'll develop a year-round training and wellness plan for your athletes. And also under the gold is you will be trained in first aid, CPR, and AED. So that's the coaching progression plan. We really hope that you'll look into it and become one of our coaches. Once you get the bronze, silver, and gold, at the bronze level, you get a really nice credential with your photo on it, identifying you as bronze. Every time you move up a level, you'll get an additional credential. And when you reach the gold level, you will get a gold credential as well as a lapel pin stating that you are a gold coach in Special Olympics Pennsylvania. So the Fit 5 program that I had mentioned is a wonderful resource. You can go on to the Visas portal where I had showed you before the trainings, webinars, and more. There's a place to sign up for Fit 5. You'll watch this short little video, and then you will be contacted by Chelsea Hamill with more information. You do receive all the materials that you need. And basically, it's very simple. It's already set up and ready to go. And every practice, before, during, or after, you spend 5 to 10 minutes going over the material. And it talks about exercising 5 times a week, eating fruits and vegetables, 5 servings, 5 times a day, and 5 bottles of water. And it gives you all the information, exactly what to say, and everything you need to know. This happens to be the I believe this is the athlete book that is showing up here at the top, that you can even get books for your athletes. A little bit about personal best tracking. So personal best is one of the big things that we're working on, and we would like to see that it is a goal to focus with the athletes on goal setting, improving their times, and becoming more aware about their performances. That's kind of what we're looking for them to do, and we would like you to be able to work with them to set these personal bests. So you may register your personal best score as you enter your information in your registration paperwork for all sectionals and state level competitions. We know that sometimes the personal best is not the same as what you're entering for the competition. For example, your personal best may have been last season, but this season we're not quite there yet. Okay, so we don't expect them to be the same. But the entry score should always reflect the athlete's best score from practices or competition during that current season. Okay, so again, the personal best may not be the same season as of right now. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So tracking, why are goals important? Goals are always important. You want to work towards something. It helps measure success. It also gives you something to celebrate. So allow the athletes to be part of setting their goals. Let them have some ownership in it, but make sure that they're reasonable and it's something that the athlete can reach. Okay? If they would like to do a butterfly as fast as Michael Phelps, that may not be realistic in swimming. Okay, so you will want to make sure that it is something realistic. Communicate very often with the athletes, let them know where they stand in their goal. You know, give them constant feedback, ensure that they're thinking about their goal. Listen to what they have to say. And it's okay. It's okay if we have to change the goal. Okay? If it's something that halfway through the season, you and the athlete have decided that we're not going to meet that goal, have that hard conversation, restructure that goal, come up with a new goal. But as always, celebrate the success, no matter how big or small. Make sure that you celebrate it. Okay? How to best track your results and manage your goals. As you can see, this card right here is for David, and David, this is for long distance running. And David was going to the Bucks Invitational on Sunday, September 22nd. And these are the scores that were David's best. Okay, so this card showed us what David's best scores were. So have this card for every one of your athletes with the goal, what you're trying to achieve, where you stand, and update these cards as you go. Okay, so for the first practice, announce and explain what goal setting it is. During your practices afterwards, talk and collaborate on the goals. Allow for alternatives. For example, an athlete may choose to not compete and has a goal to lose weight. So maybe now we're not going towards a time or a distance, but now the athlete is trying to get in shape. So they want to lose 5 pounds. Okay. So now we're going to weigh in the athlete, record their weight loss progress, help with them on that type of goal, record results at practices, give them positive feedback. You might have to give them some negative feedback, you have to have that hard conversation, like we said, and give them a 3x5 card with their goal numbers, explain again what the numbers mean, have a copy for the athlete as well as for yourself. And after a meet, if David breaks this time and it now drops to 28:40, have a celebration as you're crossing off the 29:21 and putting the new time in. USA and World Games. We do have USA Games coming up in 2022. They will be from June 5th to the 11th in Orlando, Florida. The athletes have to complete a pre-selection questionnaire deadline, which happens to be today. It's due today. It's on the SOPA website under the USA Games. So if you have an athlete who is interested, please make sure they get on by the end of today and complete the preseason questionnaire. All athletes must submit that questionnaire in order to be considered for the drawing. And this is something new for the 2022 games. This is the first time. If you have any questions, please contact Mike Ermer at mermer@specialolympicspa.org. Mike is overseeing the registration for the 2022 USA Games. In 2023, we will be hosting World Games June 16th to the 25th in Berlin, Germany. There will be more information coming. Improving communications, just a reminder, we do have a closed Facebook group for coaches. If you are not on it, you really need to get there. It's 100% optional, but you will get a lot of information by being on this Facebook page and joining in. You can share information, get coaching tips. Bruce and myself add a lot of information to remind people about trainings, new continuing eds. Anything that's happening in the sports and training world, you will find on our Facebook page. So please note that when you request to become a member, you must answer 2 questions, and that is which SOPA local program do you coach for, and what sports do you coach? Make sure you answer those 2 questions. If you don't answer those 2 questions, then you will not be let into the closed Facebook group. All right, Teresa, I'm going to hand it over to you for return to activities.
Thank you very much, Jen. All right, so I'm sure that everyone on the call, or almost everyone on the call, has already seen this graphic. This is what we're using to display the phases that we're using for SOPA and how they align with SOI and with the state of Pennsylvania. So if you'll recall, when COVID first started, we were following red, yellow, and green within Pennsylvania. That has now changed. And rather than being in the red, the yellow, or the green phase, we are now tracking community transmission and how it is across the state. So we have the low level, the moderate level, and the substantial level of transmission. So based on that, when we look at our chart, if a county is in the substantial rate of transmission, everyone is in phase A, which means you're at home, which is where we've been through most of the winter. When we go into phase B, we will allow, which is low and moderate, we will allow up to 10 participants. Phase C, we will allow up to 25 participants. Phase D, up to 50 participants, and phase E, up to 150 participants. One thing it's important to remember is that when we talk about the word participants, we're talking about athletes, we're talking about coaches, any volunteers you would need, as well as family and spectators. So everybody counts in that number. So when you're thinking about your practices and when you're thinking about how you're going to start bringing your groups together, it's important to remember that those numbers include all participants, everyone that's there with you. So as effective December 1st, in-person activities were able to be conducted by programs that were designated by the Department of Health as having low or moderate levels of community transmission. In-person training, competitions, meetings, and social gatherings are not permitted in any county that still has a substantial level of community transmission of COVID-19. So if you're wondering at any point where your county lies, every Monday there is a new report from on this. We have the website right here, and this presentation will be shared out with you later if you don't already have this link. But this link will take you to a page that shows every county in the state of Pennsylvania and where you fall with the community transmission in your county. So I think Jen's going to bring that up for us to look at. Just in case you haven't seen it, you can see what it looks like. This is reported out every Monday, and this is what the field team is using to determine whether or not a county can return to training. And you can see that it tracks every week. So each Monday, like I said, this is reported out. So you can go back even on your own for your own knowledge. If you want to go back and see where your county has been over the last couple of weeks or months, you can see it here and just see how things are starting to trend. It's pretty interesting to look at, actually, if you have some free time. All right, so if a county is designated as having low or moderate levels of community transmission, which means you can have in-person training, but then your county is reclassified as substantial, all SOPA programming in that county must return to phase A, which means you must return to your at-home virtual training. When a county is designated as having substantial levels of community transmission, the local program must cease all in-person activities for at least 14 days. The SOPA field director in your area of the state will alert the local manager and site COVID-19 coordinator about shutting down your in-person site and when you can resume in-person activities. So you'll be working very closely with your field directors and your local program management as you go through all of the return to activity and in-person training. So one of the things that's important to talk about is transportation. We know that everyone needs to find transportation to and from their training sites. As long as a county is in low level of transmission, the local program can have transportation outside of the county lines to train and compete. However, you can still not travel in passenger vans or buses. They are still prohibited. In the moderate level, you cannot travel in passenger vans or buses, as well as transportation is not allowed at this time outside county lines to train or compete. So if you're in a low level, you can cross into another county to train. If you're in a moderate level, you must remain only in your county. As much as possible, participants should be traveling with members of their family or individuals whom they live with. It's recommended that you avoid the use of public transportation. If a participant must carpool with someone else who does not live in their home, we're requiring that you practice social distancing, that you wear a mask, hand sanitizer must be used. In a vehicle that holds, that has just a back seat, 4 people per car is the maximum. If there is a third row of seats, you can allow 6 people per vehicle. Again, just a reminder that no handshaking or touching, and if possible, asking the driver of the carpool to put down the windows as much as possible as weather permits. Additionally, we're asking that the COVID-19 coordinator or trained volunteers conducts screening protocols prior to carpooling. So one change for this season of sports is participants must wear masks while actively engaged in workouts and competition, as well as on the sidelines, in the dugout, etc. And previously, we did not require them while athletes were competing and actively engaged in their workouts. Now it has been required that you do that. Sites must have face masks and PPE available as well for anyone who's unable to bring it with them to practice. Just a reminder that no spectators are allowed to congregate on the sidelines. Individuals who are providing transportations are to remain in their cars until this practice session is over. If participants need assistance, caregivers can, caregivers can remain if they need to, practicing social distancing using PPE, including face masks. Remember though, that if those caregivers do remain, they are counted in your numbers.
Before we move on, we do have 2 questions.
Okay.
And I believe they're actually the same question. So can a participant residing in a county with low transmission travel to a county with moderate transition for training?
No, at this time, if your county of residence is low transmission, but the county that you were going to train in is in moderate, you cannot cross county lines to train in that. You could only cross over if that other county is in low transmission as well.
So right now it's low to low.
Yes.
Thank you.
And it just as a reminder, this is ever evolving. So as more information comes available, these things there's a lot of conversation about them. So this is where this is our stance right now. But there are things that we're looking at to see how things may be changing.
Okay. The next question is there any plans for vaccinating coaches or players? And what we can tell you at this time is that vaccine information is being put together by the SOI office. We are hoping to have some new and updated information by March 9th. So we'll let you know how that goes. We know there's going to be a release form involved, but that's about all we can tell you that we know right now. We're going to wait till March 9th till we get those additional guidelines. So just as Teresa said, everything is evolving and vaccinations are evolving also as we speak. So we'll see what information we get come March 9th.
All right, just for your information, we have a number of return to activities resources. We do have on our website a number of things for you to access as you need them. Our return to activities plan is there. Our appendix is there. The code of conduct and risk assessment form that we're asking all of the athletes to complete is there, as well as a video on how to train in a safe environment. All things that will help you create the safest environment for your athletes to come back in person. We do suggest that you go to the website and look around on it, just knowing what resources are available for you as you start to return to activities. Very important to note for high-risk individuals, high-risk individuals will now be able to return at their comfort level. All participants will be required to complete a COVID-19 waiver. More information and guidance about that waiver and how that will be rolled out will be provided shortly. This is new information for those of you who were on the call last week that is evolving. All right, commit to fit. So as you know, any athlete who is interested in going to into the drawing for the USA Games must be participating in one of the commit to fit options at some point this year. So the Sona Moves Challenge is an option. That is something that's done on their own. The Fitness Heptathlon is the at-home training that is going to be available for the spring, and then there's the in-person sport training. So Sona Moves Challenge. The Sona Move Challenge will run from March 15th to May 9th. Special Olympics North America presented the Sona Move Challenge as an 8-week movement challenge to see how many minutes of exercise participants can complete each week. Participants will have the choice of competing in one challenge only. The choices they have are individual, doubles, either traditional or unified, team, traditional or unified. A team can consist of 3 to 10 people, as well as unified. I'm sorry, every time the chat box comes up, it goes right over my screen and then I can't see. Unified teams must be at least 25% athlete and 25% unified partners. So for example, on a 4-person unified team, 1 athlete and 3 partners, or 3 athletes and 1 partner. To register for the Soda Moves Challenge, you can go to the website. Participant registration is open until March 14th. On March 14th, no athletes or partners can be added to the challenge. After registering, participants can keep track of how many minutes they exercise Monday through Sunday. Every Monday, participants will self-report their minutes, and we will be having region-wide leaderboards that we can share out so everyone can see how they're progressing with their peers. All right, the fitness heptathlon. The fitness heptathlon spring season is going to begin Monday, March 15th. Local programs and coaches should start reaching out now to recruit athletes and coaches for participation. We do have on our Commit to Fit site, there is a link that goes directly to the fitness heptathlon, which has all the information that you need to participate in that event. The important dates for that, March 15th is when the VSIS rosters are due. March 25th, all of the baseline Google score sheets are due. April 22nd, the mid-season score sheets are due. And then the final score sheets are due on May 27th. We'll be holding a coaches training for the fitness heptathlon this Thursday, March 4th at 7 p.m. In this training, we'll learn how to organize a training session. We'll hear from coaches who have been successful with their training sessions, tips and best practices for how to run your practice. If you would like to be a part of that coaches training, there is a link right here. You can register. Again, this presentation will be shared out so that you can utilize that link. This does count towards the coach's progression plan that Jen spoke about earlier in this presentation. All right, in-person training is going to begin on March 15th. Again, you must be in the lower moderate level of community transmission to return to in-person training. COVID-19 coordinators must submit the site registration and advancement form, and that's the form that will go to your field director, and your field director will work with you on when you can start training in person. Visit the in-person training webpage for sport-specific guidance and more information. So on there, we do have links to all of the guidance for each sport that's being offered in the spring. So we do suggest that you utilize that, and it will give you all the information that you need. All right, so for 2021 softball, we will be offering in phase A. So phase A is the at-home component, where we are for programs that are in the substantial transmission and can't be in person. The fitness heptathlon will be the at-home component for the spring. For phase B and C, we will have in-person individual skills. Phase D will have in-person individual skills with there may be an opportunity for team play as we see how different counties progress with the transmission rates. All right, competition for softball. Virtual summer games is June 10th through 12th. Again, phases A through D for competition. SONA Moves recognition we will have at that time as well. We are also looking at additional competition opportunities that could involve local and invitational in-person events, support from the SOPA competition staff with less than 50 participants per competition venue. Again, a lot of this is evolving as we are going through the planning process. Understand that some of this can change, but these are the things that we are looking at and the opportunities that we are working towards so that we can get our athletes back in person for competition. All right, so for softball, the sport-specific guidelines, and again, these are all in a document on the website, so you can access them. We made them as one-page documents for ease of use. In-person softball skills can return to training and competition in both phase B and C, and in-person team softball can begin in phase D following requirements that are outlined in the guidelines in the return to activities plan, as well as the sport specific requirements that are listed below. It's important that you are familiar with the governing guidance for your sport. We do have links to each of them in the sport guidances for you. In phases B and C, do not allow athletes to share equipment. We've talked about that in the fall as well. No sharing of equipment. If for some reason equipment has to be shared, it's important that it's sanitized before use of the next athlete. Equipment must be sanitized at the end of practice, and then avoid using dugouts, and keeping your 6 feet distance is very important as well. So maintaining that during your practice. If we're able to return in phase D to team play, COVID-19 screening, athletes have to hand sanitize, wash hands, have athletes sanitize after any drill that involves shared equipment, changing softballs often, utilizing sanitation on softballs before being used again, and limit equipment and community items. So if we're able to return to any type of team play, it will be important just to make sure that your athletes have their own equipment. If they don't have their own equipment, that we're cleaning and sanitizing it as often as possible as throughout the practice and competition. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Jen for rule updates.
Okay, first things first, let's meet our new sport director. Her name is Alex McLean, and Alex is from Northampton County. She is the owner of the 7 Deadly Spins fast pitch softball training facility. So we will have an email set up for her by the end of this week. And once we do, it'll be on the sports offered page. So you will be able to see it there. You can see a picture of Alex, and we are really excited and glad to have her on board. Matter of fact, her coaches have shot some videos for us about how to do different skills and drills. So they will be on the website for your use very shortly. So the rules book, the new rules book, as you can see, this is the front cover of it. And again, if you're looking for the new rules book, you can go to Sports Offered on the SOPA website, look under softball, and you will find this rule book. There are 2 new rules. There's a batter runner and a runner rule, and a disqualification of, disqualified or ejected participants rule. And very simple, they have removed this run from the batter runner and a runner ruling. So 11.1.2.4 is now out of play, is now no longer in place. And it simply said the ball is dead and any walk to a partner, intentional or otherwise, will result in a 2-base award. The next batter and athlete will bat. So this is actually for unified, and they have taken it out of the book. So if you're doing unified softball, this is a removed rule. And then the last one here is disqualified or ejected participants. They have taken it and changed it from adult unified partner. So now they are saying disqualified or ejected participants. A disqualified player is prohibited from playing, but can remain in the team area or serve as a coach. And then they said if they found that the person is playing, the game is forfeited. So any ejected minor or Special Olympics athlete that requires supervision may remain on the grounds. Further action by the ejected player will result in the team forfeiting the game. So if you do have an ejected player, they may stay with your team on the team bench, but if they end up back in the game is forfeited. So those are the only two new rules, but we just wanted to remind you about the age appropriateness of teams. When you are putting your team together, remember that we do have age groups. So players who are 8 to 15 should be on the same team, 16 to 21, they should be on the same team, and then 22 plus. We like to go in 20-year gaps, so it'd be more like 22 to 42, and then 43 up to 60, up to about 63, 64. Remember safety first. If they're asking you how, on any registration forms, what age group is your team? Remember that it is the oldest member on your team that makes the age group. Okay, these age groups have always been around. We've kind of dismissed them in many years, but for the safety of all involved, we'd like you to start focusing on the age groups of your team. We should never see an 8-year-old on a team with anyone who is 22 and older. Please remember that some of our older athletes are not as quick as an 8-year-old or 9-year-old may be, and it can be a danger for the older athlete as well as a danger for the younger athlete. Okay, so please remember to go by your skills and your age groups. Okay, we do have a softball training that is coming up, so if you have coaches who need to be certified, it is a virtual training and it will be held Saturday, April 10th at 1 p.m. Again, you can register on the Visas portal. So head on there, register for it. The training will last anywhere from 2.5 to 3 hours, and get everybody certified that you can. All right, so we're gonna have, do we have any questions on softball? If you do, please stick them in the box. Okay. Teresa, we have a question here that they would like for someone to explain how a county moves from one phase to another.
Yeah.
Is there a time frame?
Jen, this is Bruce. So I was going to wait till you're done with all the questions and then I'll address that right afterwards. I think it'll be easy just to show that, not easy, but if we show the presentation from the other night, I can pull up the slide to give them a visual representation.
Okay, because at this time we were going to tell the softball players, the softball coaches, if they don't have any questions, they can leave. But if you want to stay on for the discussion about how teams move from phase to phase, please feel free. The basketball training the basketball section will probably take 5 to 10 minutes that we're going to head into.
I can certainly do it now if you would. I just didn't want to interrupt.
And the other thing that I need to remind you, anything about vaccines, we cannot give you the answer right now until we have the information from SOI on March 9th. As soon as we hit March 9th and that information is in our hands, we will review it, turn it around, and we will get it out to you. So please watch the website under the COVID section, COVID-19. There's a link for it right on the front page of the website. So please, anything about COVID-19 and vaccines, we're waiting for that information. Okay. Unless you have basketball teams anyway, right? So we will move, if there's not any other questions on softball, then we'll move to basketball. Okay. Teresa, do you want to take this part?
Sure can. So basketball, again, for phase A, while we're in the substantial, for any county that's in the substantial rate of transmission, will be the fitness heptathlon. That will be the at-home component. For phases B, C, and D, individual skills will be what is offered for the spring. There will be no team play for basketball for the spring or summer of 2021. This is very similar. I mean, exactly the same as softball. Virtual summer games, we're looking at June 10th through 12th. Phase A, again, fitness heptathlon. B, C, and D, in-person skills only. And then we'll recognize SONA moves during the summer games as well. Additional competition opportunities. These are things that we're looking at. We are working on proposals for the SOPA leadership. And as soon as we have those details ready, we will share them out with everybody. In-person basketball skills can return to training and competition in phases B, C, and D following any requirements outlined in the return to activities plan. There are going to be some requirements. Athletes must have their own ball. Individual skills will have a level 1 and a level 2. There's only one change to the rule book for the skills. For level 2 skill 3, there's a catch and pass activity. In phase B and C, there's going to be one change to that, where you'll use a wall or bounce back equipment in place of the volunteer who would be the ball feeder that's in that specific element. And then back to Jen for rule updates.
All right, so let's talk about a little bit about basketball changes and rule updates. One of the things that I did want to let you know, if you have not heard, Herb Packer, our basketball sport director, passed away in January. It was very unexpected. His memorial service is going to be held on March 16th. I will put out information if anyone is interested. They are live streaming the memorial service. Okay. All right, on to the new rules and new information. We'd like to welcome Andrew Knight. Andy Knight is our new sport director for basketball. He's got big shoes to fill, but he's worked with those big shoes for many years, and I believe he's going to be a great addition to our basketball team. So that's Andy Knight. He is from the Washington Greene County, where he is the training and competition coordinator in that program. He has an email called that will be bball@specialolympicspa.org. That will be set up later this week. So starting next Monday, his email will be active. Okay, Andy's on the call. So welcome, Andy. We are glad to have you on our team.
Thank you, Jennifer, for the opportunity.
Okay, so basketball skills. It's a whole new ball game for basketball 3v3. Okay, the only changes to skills that they made this year is they just added a couple of words in and changed one or two wording. So you'll see that individual skill rules in level 1. This is for the spot shot. When you are making a field goal attempt that does not completely pass through the basket, but does not hit either the background or the ring, 1 point is awarded. Okay. The second one is in level 3, event number 1, the 12-meter dribble. The athletes used to receive a point for every midpoint that was crossed, and they have removed that. So again, that's level 3 individual skills, event number 1, 12-meter dribble. Okay, so those are the skill changes they made. Please note they do talk about using a different size ball if you opt to, but when you go to a sectional or a state games, we will be using the traditional size basketball. We will not be making any other changes on the size of the ball. Okay. For team competition, rule number 6.2.72, free throws awarded beginning with the 7th team foul in each half has been changed to 2 free throws awarded non-shooting foul after the 4th period, which includes player and technical fouls. That is the only team rule other than the attire, which goes for all 3 skills 3v3 and 5v5. Head coverings are permitted but should adhere to the FIBA rules, FIBA. The ruling they took out from there was probably about 4 inches of information talking about all different types of head coverings. They've simply removed that all and just removed it and said, follow the rules for the FIBA. The game. Okay, hope you're all sitting down and ready for this. The game will be played for 10 minutes or until one team scores 21 points. A made field goal will count as 1 point unless attempted from behind the arc, where it counts for 2 points. A made free throw counts 1 point. So there are no 3-pointers. There are no 3-pointers. There will be a stop clock applied. The clock will be stopped for all dead ball situations, such as fouls, violations, field goals, and timeouts. Okay, so there will be a stopped clock. The game will start with the flip of a coin for possession. The new item added is that the team that wins the coin toss gets to decide to take the ball or leave it. And when they say to leave it, the other team will bring the ball in. And then if there is a potential overtime, that team will have possession of the ball. But if they take the ball and we go into overtime, then the team who did not have the rights to the ball will now have it for overtime. And that is the rule that is right here. Overtime will now is the first team to score 2 points will win the game. There is no time limit. It's 2 points and that team wins. The referee will handle the ball after all dead ball situations. The ball is dead after a foul or violation is called, or any other time the referee blows his or her whistle. After a made field goal, the ball is still alive. Okay. Team change possession of the ball after made field goals. A person from a non-scoring team shall resume the game by dribbling or passing the ball inside the court directly underneath the basket, not from behind the end line. To place on the court behind the arc, the defensive team is not allowed to play for the ball in the no-charge semicircle area underneath the basket. However, if a player is fouled in the act of shooting and makes the basket, the field goal is credited and awarded with 1 or 2 free throws. So we now have free throws in 3v3 basketball. Okay. Possession of change, possession of the ball given to either team following the dead ball situations shall start with a check ball behind the arc at the top of the court. Okay, so now we say on the change of, oops, nope, that was the new rule. They took everything else out, sorry. So they took out anything that said the inbound spot on all cases will be behind the foul line. All of that information is removed, and possession of the, and now it's just basically possession of the ball given to either team following the dead ball situation shall start with a check ball behind the arc at the top of the court. The next rule, any change of possession, the team which just gained possession of the ball must take the ball back behind the arc. A player is considered to be behind the arc when neither of his or her feet are inside nor on the arc line. They have also put a 12-second shot clock on the game, but we will not be using the clock. Okay, so we will not be following the rule of the 12-second shot clock. So if a violation has occurred when the defense who has just gained possession of the ball attempts a field goal without taking it back behind the arc, if a shot is attempted by the defense after it gained possession without taking it back behind the arc, the possession returns to the offense as a dead ball and will start the play with a check ball behind the arc at the top of the court. Okay. Substitutions may be made on a dead ball prior to the check ball. The substitute can enter the game after his or her teammate steps off the court and establishes a physical contact, okay, with him or her behind the end line opposite the basket. Substitutions require no action from the referee or the table officials. So please make sure that your athletes are off the court. They high five, fist pump, whatever, before the other player it goes into the court. Competition fouls. The ref, oopsie, I'm sorry, that swapped over. Okay, there are no individual or team foul limits. The referee can decide to give a player an unsportsmanlike foul if the player does not adapt his or her game after making several fouls and a warning of the referee. Too unsportsmanlike foul is disqualification of the game. Team fouls are limited to 6 per team. There is a penalty of 2 free throws for the team fouls number 7, 8, and 9. The penalty for the team foul for 10 and more are 2 free throws and ball possession. This clause is applied also to fouls during the active shooting and the overtime rule. Okay. A technical foul shall be awarded with 1 free throw and ball possession. An unsportsmanlike foul shall be awarded with 2 free throws and ball possession. So it's a whole new ball game for 3v3. And again, those are all the updates. Again, we're going to talk about the age appropriate of your teams. Please make sure you are keeping your teams age appropriate, 8 to 15, 16 to 21, 22 plus. And also, please, if your team members can slam dunk a basketball, your team members need to be on a 5v5 team. They are not appropriate for 3v3. All right. So any questions? So for team fouls, Barbara, that was there on that last slide. Team fouls are limited to 6 per team. There's a penalty of 2 free throws for team fouls once you hit number 7, 8, and 9. The penalty to foul 10 and more are 2 free throws and ball possession. "3v3 competition will not be done this year, but we will be ready to go into 3v3 for 2022. Remember, at this time, we are staying with the individual skills so we can appropriately social distance and make sure everyone is safe. Yes, this is a lot of change for lower skilled players, but I think that the free throw, being able to take a free throw, will be a wonderful thing for the players, a new skill to learn. Any rationale for the changes? This is what they are giving us, the rules from SONA. These are the rules they gave us. This is what we're to go by. And frankly, the game needs a little bit of a change, right, Andy? And Herb Packer had put a lot of this into motion, recommendations for it, having team fouls. So if we're going to use it as a feeder, the athletes do need to understand fouls, and they do need to understand a free throw. So I think it's a good changes for the athletes to get them from individual skills to 3v3 to 5v5. All of these changes, yes, are on the website. If you go to the sports offered page for Special Olympics Pennsylvania, sports offered, go under basketball, and you will be able to find all of these changes in the rules. They have a update sheet, and they also have the new rule book right there for you. Okay, and again, 1 point and 2 points only. There are no 3-pointers, and the game is now played to 21 points, and it is played for 10 minutes, but it does have a stop clock while fouls are being taken care of. Okay, I think I got everything in the box. Um, 10-minute time limit or 21 points, whichever comes first. But again, remember, we do have the stopped clock. So the games are probably going to take close to that 20 minutes. All right. So if there are no other questions, I'm going to turn it over to Bruce. Bruce, I'm going to make you the host right now.
Oh, okay, that'll work.
All right. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay, so I will share my screen so I can show everyone how to get there. Again, I'm just going to go over the how you move from. One last question: 5-on-5 changes?
None.
No 5-on-5 changes. Alrighty.
Nope. 5-on-5 has no changes.
So I'm just going to go over where you can find the information about how you move from phase to phase.
Hey, Bruce, before you go there, would you click on sports and games?
Yep.
Click on sports offered.
Yep.
All right. And would you show them where to, there you go. So here are your sports. All you need to do is click on the sport, click on basketball for me.
I was going to say, if I do athletics, I can show them where today's webinar is, but right here is where you'll see the 2021 preseason coaches webinar. So once it's downloaded, most likely it'll be up by sometime tomorrow. But go ahead, Jen.
Okay. And you can see here basketball resources, rules, coaching guides. This is where you'll find all of the new rules. You'll find the rule changes, the new rule book. Okay. So that's where you go. The coaching guide is really good. Check out that page. Look at the resources that are on those pages for you. The information is really good. There's some fact sheets, coaches guide, the rules. If you want to get into unified basketball, there's some great information there to start your unified basketball team. All right, thanks, Bruce.
Sure, no problem. I'm just going to go over real quick on where you can find or just kind of review how we move from phase to phase. So if you want to stay on for that, you certainly can. But if you're not interested, you can drop off at this point. So that'll be the only thing that I cover is how you move from phase to phase. Really, it should take no more than 5 minutes to cover that. So if you are interested, I'll talk to you in 5 seconds. If you're not interested, just want to thank everyone for joining tonight. Certainly, you can reach out to Jen if you have any questions related to basketball or softball, or specifically myself. If you have any other additional questions or need additional clarification with anything. So this is our main website, obviously, and on here, oh, still stuck in the sports and games. So this is our main web page, and this will be the front page. If you scroll down, you'll see the orange block right here with COVID-19 return to activities. You can click on that. It'll take you to our return to activities web page that has all the information about our return to activities. But really what I wanted to show you tonight is under resources for managers and assistant managers, under video resources is where you'll find our spring sports return to activities webinar that we held last Wednesday with those updated changes for those high-risk individuals being able to return to play. But specifically, whoops, not that one. Specifically, I think the learners had a question about how to move from phases to phases. But right here on our spring return to activities webinar, the PowerPoint slides, I'm going to pull up now, and everything to kind of clarify that was presented last Thursday. So I'll pull up this slide. Some of you may know or may not know that in order to return to in-person, the training site COVID-19 coordinator would have to submit a training site request form that will go directly to the field directors, and they'll make a decision whether you can return to activities. But specifically, you're asking about how to move from phase to phase. So once you take care of that process, again, I just want to reiterate that there is a process in order to be allowed to return to in-person training. But specifically, here's the slide that reviews how that we track the level of community transmission. You can see on the left there that our spring season is due to start on March 15th. And today's actually May 1st. I mean, actually March 1st. And the transmission information came out today. Like they mentioned earlier, it comes out every Monday. So if you're right now on March 1st, if your county is in the low or moderate phase, you would be able to start training on March 15th, provided you do the site registration advancement form and everything is cleared through the field department. So again, I just want to reiterate that even though you may be in the lower moderate phase right now, you do need to complete the site registration advancement form before actually returning to training and competition. So using today as the example, March 1st, and today, if you're in the lower moderate phase, you would have 14 days from that period, assuming that on March 8th, that your program is still within that lower moderate phase. So you would be able to begin training on March 15th. So really what it comes down to is once your county is out of substantial and they move into the lower moderate phase, from that Monday, they have 14 days until you can return to training. The rationale behind that is if you are in substantial, and then the following week you return to moderate, and then the following week if you return to substantial, you would have to, stop training and go back to that phase A. So we want to make sure that things and numbers have stabilized within your county for at least 14 days within that lower moderate phase. So your county must be in the moderate low phase for 14 days to transition out of phase A, that virtual phase. So using Allegheny, I think Allegheny last week was in the moderate phase. This week, again, they're within the moderate phase. So technically, if they filled out that site registration form, they would be able to start training on March 15th. Again, so use another example. If you are in the moderate and low phase, and your counter reverts back to substantial, your time clock would again reset, and you would have to revert back to phase A. Wait until your county returns back to substantial or low phase, and then 14 days out from there. So to use a specific example of the county that I am in, being in Montgomery, last week we were in the moderate phase. Unfortunately, when the new report came out today, we reverted back to that substantial phase. So using March 1st, we're now in that substantial phase. So we have to wait 14 more days. Hopefully on March 8th, if we return to low or moderate, March 15th, we're in low and moderate, we would be able to return to training on Monday, March 22nd. There's some examples listed over there on the right. So to give you an example, for Elk County, you can look at February 5th, where they are in the moderate phase. You can see on this top line here, week ending 2/5, they're in the moderate phase. Week 2/12, again, they were in the moderate phase. So right there, that's 14 days. Technically, they would be able to start training on 2/22. But because we start on March 15th, they'd be able to start on March 15th. The next example, if you look at Fayette, on February 12th, you can see that they were in the moderate phase. February 19th, they were in the moderate phase. So technically they'd be able to start on March 1st, but we'd start training on March 15th. So they would be able to start on March 15th. Going down to the third example, you can look at Fulton on 2/19. They're in the low phase. If on today, March 1st, if they were in the low phase again, they would be able to start training on March 15th because they'd be in that low or moderate phase for 14 days. So if a program moved to low and moderate on 3/8, which is March 8th, they would be eligible to start training on March 22nd, right? Because of the 14 days. So new counties, March 8th, a new county returns to low or moderate. The week of the 8th, week of the 15th is 14 days. You would be able to return to training on March 22nd. Does that help clarify, Lester? Or Mrs. Lohner? I'm not sure which one asked that specific question.
Yep, I got that.
You got that on there?
Yeah,
And
thank
again,
you.
this is on our website. You can look up the return to activities PDFs that's on there. And certainly you can listen to the webinar as well. So just to repeat, on the COVID-19 webpage, under resources for managers, we have video resources. And we have our spring sports return to activities webinar that we held this past Thursday with the slides that I just pulled up as well that accompanies that document. All right, anyone have any additional questions? Let's see, I didn't see any pop up there yet, but does anyone have any additional questions? And if not, I mean, you can certainly shoot me an email, but it really, you know, if you have any specific questions related to the timeline or where you're located, I would encourage you to reach out to your program management team who will reach out to their specific field director. All right. Jennifer, if there's nothing else, I'll pass it back to you.
All right, Bruce, if you would stop the recording, since you are now the host.
Oh.
All right, thank you, everyone.